they diminish the product that we're all paying all this money to watch as a result of a half-measure punishment. Like, I can't – and also, too, if you're a Big Ten coach who was complaining, or you're an Ohio State fan or a Penn State fan or a Michigan State fan, does the 3-game suspension scratch your itch? Like, are you no longer bloodthirsty? It doesn't do anything. It's just – and he's coaching in the middle of the week. So, like, who are you actually – like, is it actually a big-time punishment? The only thing that it does is it messes up the Ohio State-Michigan game at the end of the year. It's like, okay, well, so now what? The one game that we were all looking forward to all year to watching, the Jim Harbaugh continuous domination, or is Ryan Dagan? It's like, okay, now there's an asterisk next to that now. It's like, for what? Now all of our entertainment is worse off as a result of some bullshit penalty that doesn't even really seem that big of a deal. 3-game suspension, but he's still coaching the team all week and is calling the plays in practice and helping formulate the game plan. Like, are you suspended or are you not? Like, it's all wishy-washy.
During the week is weird. It's very weird.
It's like, if you're going to suspend the guy, suspend him. Yeah. Everything they did was like slapped together with duct tape and go, oh, well, we made this up. Well, this is I guess what we'll do. But, like, really, does it make any sense? Who's happy today?
That's
do you think Brett Bielema's happy today?
No.
You think Michigan State is happy? Do you think that the big snitch Ryan Day is happy?
Well, Ari, that's a poor metric, because either
it's the best metric.
No,
it's an entertainment product.
Because but you're talking about how who you're pleasing. If you're going to please Michigan, you do nothing. If you're going to please the rest of the Big Ten, you say you can't have contact with your team until signing day is over. That's the only thing that would make the rest of the league happy, quite frankly. So it's like, I think you could call anything sort of a half measure. I don't know. I mean, they had to make up a punishment, because there is no punishment for this. You had to make one up. And I don't know, I would have been okay with the fine, I guess. This is okay. I don't know. We talked about this, during the week, Ari. There's nothing here that made sense to do. I liked my idea. Okay.
What was your idea?
My idea was that they had to
and then throw feathers on.
No, not the tarring and feathering. No, that Michigan for the rest of the season had to tell opponents what play they were running before they ran it. To either, hey, if it didn't matter, then you don't care, or if it did matter, then that's your penance. You have to pay for that. Obviously, I think the water on that has been muddied, considering the situation with Purdue in the Big Ten championship last year, where, teams are seemingly reliably giving them signs. Now, that's not explicitly illegal, but it does bring into question the thing that I care about, which is the competitive element. I care about the competitive
element. You don't think the coordinators knew? They're coaching.
No, all right. They knew the information, but you have to prove whether they knew where the information came from. Me personally, I believe there was a very small, maybe more than one, maybe fewer number of people who knew how he was getting the information. It's not illegal. I think that they bought into the idea that he just was really good at this. Obviously, everyone on staff knew they had signals, and they had this guy that just knew all this stuff. And I think there's a willful ignorance to that, but I don't believe that they knew that he was buying tickets, and you have to prove that before you really drop the hammer. But me personally,
this is like a little hammer. This is like a baby hammer.
Yeah. Well,
I would just prefer to wait. Like, listen,
you can't wait, Ari. You can't wait. You cannot wait
in this world. Why?
Wait. Because there's a season being played right now.
The guy's going to come back when it matters the most.
I know, but you cannot wait and let him continue playing games, continue going on as business as usual. All this is playing on in the back.
Okay, here's also from the Big Ten for more clarification if you want this to get even dumber. From the Big Ten, this is not a sanction of Coach Harbaugh. It is a sanction against the university that, under the extraordinary circumstances presented by this offensive conduct, best fits the violation because it preserves the ability for Harbaugh and student athletes to continue competing, but the head coach embodies the university for purposes of its football program.
Yeah. You're penalizing Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. Because
Mitch told me to keep this to 1,400 words. No shot. None. I think that like people wanted justice. This seems fractured.
There is no justice because there's no rule. There's no specific punishment for this. We've never seen this before. This is not something like literally WikiLeaks, as our colleague Bruce Feldman wrote about, is the closest thing to what we've seen. And that was not as egregious as this. That
The Big
was
Ten,
more sinister, but not as impactful.
the Big Ten also said on Michigan presenting sign stealing evidence. The conference is unmoved by the university's attempt to downplay its impermissible conduct by asserting that other conference members may have engaged in sign decoding.
Because they didn't break rules doing it. That's why.
Yeah. No, I mean,
that's pretty
like,
straightforward.
Listen, if you call me an Ohio State homer and ever again, like I am out here. No, not anybody listening to this. Like I'm out here like trying to make it feel like it's right. Like I feel like everybody lost today. And when you're trying to make things right, somebody should win. Who won today?
That's
no
that's
one's
a
happy.
bad way
Nobody
to look at it.
Won. Like it's just like, oh, you're making up this thing.
That's a bad way to look at it, Ari, because you either had to, if you wanted to have a winner and a loser today, like I said, you would have had to either give them a pass or absolutely drop the hammer. And you don't have enough evidence or the total picture.
That's my entire point. You just made my entire point.
But Ari,
you don't have enough evidence. You can't do it.
You know they broke a rule. You can do something, but you can't. That's why you have that notice in there that says if we find out more, there can be more punishment because you aren't sure. But you know,
are you
enough,
as excited
Ari,
as a college football reporter to watch the Ohio State Michigan game this year? Are you as excited to watch the Michigan Penn State game on Saturday?
Harbaugh's absence to me will not affect my enjoyment or appreciation of either of those games. I don't really get that argument. But Ari, my point is, you know enough to drop a punishment. You know that they broke an NCAA rule, in-person scouting. You know that happened. There's plenty of evidence, okay? And you know that they did that in an effort to compromise the integrity of the sport and the games that are played, which is, of all the things in the sport, that is what's sacred, okay? Now, you can make the case that the way that the other teams were getting signals could muddy that, and that does muddy it for me in terms of like legacy and how do we view the last 2 years of Michigan football. I don't think I see like, oh, this is fraudulent. I'm not there. But
did you say integrity of the game?
Yes, sorry.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
This is not a sanction of Coach Harbaugh from the Big Ten. I'll read it again. It is a sanction against the university that, under the extraordinary circumstances presented by this offensive conduct, best fits the violation.
Mm-hmm.
The integrity of the game isn't being restored here.
No, but
the coordinators that were calling the plays. Well, they're not. That's what I'm saying. Jim Harbaugh's presence on the sideline doesn't preclude them from the integrity being restored.
Yeah, but already been restored. You're paying a penalty, Ari. At the end of the day, it's not. I don't have any qualms against Jesse Minter or Sharon Moore. Like, if you don't know how they got the information, and that's fair to suggest that they should have known. Should have and did are two very different things. Ignorance and willful ignorance are two very different things.
They knew. They had to have known.
Something. We'll see.
Listen, I agree. I don't know anything about this Color Stallions guy, but like, listen, he hasn't really mastered the art of subtlety.
But you got to prove it. Ari, you have to prove it. You need a smoking gun.
So on this, you want to prove it over here, but you don't want to prove it over there?
You've proven that they did something, Ari. Somebody in your program broke NCAA rules. You have to do something now. You know that happened.
So you're like, you read this suspension, you're like, okay, that makes sense.
No punishment was going to make sense, but I know you had to do something. I don't really care about what the punishment is.
I'm going to write a column after this saying that this is a dumb, half-measured punishment, and it makes no sense. And I want you to try to talk me out of it before the commenters come for my neck. Can you do that?
All right. No, because this is a very contentious issue. And I'm sorry if it's not good podcasting, but I think that there's room for a lot of opinions here. I think you had to do something. I don't know what that right thing is, Ari. I don't think that there's something that makes a ton of sense besides my solution, which I do think is actually good, although it would never be done. But like, I don't think there's something that makes sense because this is an unprecedented situation.
There are people in the chat, and Josh, one of our most loyal listeners, somebody I appreciate very much, makes this point. He said, if they cheated, who cares? We need the TV ratings. Was it worth last year when they knew the signs, or was CJ cheated out of a Heisman? I am not suggesting at all that Michigan go unpunished for transgressions. What I am suggesting is, instead of levying a half-assed nonsense suspension that allows the head coach to continue to coach during the week, for them to take their time. Don't be sloppy about it.
You can't take your time, Ari. There's games being played in less than 24 hours.
I don't understand this notion of if he
influence.
coaches the Penn State game, how different that is. The integrity of the game that is being played. The Big Ten itself said it's not just on Harbaugh. It's a suspension or a penalty towards Michigan. I just don't know what rushing to it does. It appeases nobody. Nobody is happy about it. Michigan is furious that they've been suspended. The people in the Big Ten might be like, okay, well, he got his slap on his wrist, and there might be more punishment coming. But it's just like, it doesn't sit well with me, even if we know he did it.
It doesn't sit well with me.
What sits well with me is proving beyond the shadow of a doubt with the entire scope of the information and then making a decision to do that. I know that people are furious. I know people on Twitter are mad. I don't know that I feel like they needed to rush to a decision to just make one. I don't know that I agree with that.
You know enough to do something.
But you know enough during murder trials that somebody probably did it, but you don't put them in jail or in an electric cell before
you can't compare that to this, because this has an actual deadline. There's games being played. And you're running a conference where you have 17 members who feel
your argument makes sense. It does. But you know when it stops making sense? When Jim Harbaugh gets on the field in Indy, or if he's playing coach.
I don't even think they can control. I don't even think they can control that. That's not a Big Ten game. I'm not even sure they can control that.
It's just like, okay, well, sit out these games here, Jim, and then just go play, go be full-time coach again in the playoff.
Like that game, they'll be wearing the Big Ten. I mean, I'm not sure, but like that's not a Big Ten competition. That's not under the Big Ten's TV deal. It's not on a Big Ten field. They won't have Big Ten officials. I don't really know.
Then why didn't they suspend him through the end of the conference championship?
That's a good question.